from the vault, high atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Talking Catholic. It's Kari, Janisse here, and I am so excited to be back with my good friend, Mike Walsh.
Well, I'm here all the time. It's exciting to have you back, actually.
It is. It's been a minute.
We haven't been in each other's presence, I think, for at least a month.
Yeah.
And come to think of it, I think the last time we were together, we were in this exact same place.
Different media outlet, though.
Yeah, different format. But we were in. We're currently sitting in a convent and about to have a conversation about vocations. But if anybody wants to see where we are, they can go back to your last episode.
Yeah, last episode is season 4. Youth Ministry Insight. So it's not the very last episode that's up there because we already started season 5. Maybe?
That's a good,
the next day after this comes out.
My schedule is so all over the place right now. Who knows?
So look for Sister and me and Father. It's a vocation episode. It's all about vocations and sharing vocations with Youth Ministry. So it can be found on the Talking Catholic YouTube channel under the Youth Ministry Insights playlist. And it was a great episode.
It really was.
Shared all about vocations with Sister Stacie and Father Peter Gallagher. And they just shared their vocation stories and how vocations can really touch the hearts of the youth and open their eyes and open really their mind up a little bit to what God may be calling them to. So it was such a fun episode to record. Thank you for doing beautiful work with it. With your nice fancy cameras, Mike. You're good at that.
That was a pleasant. I don't often get to be the director of photography for some of our shoots. We have the far more capable John Kalitz at our disposal, but we were doing it in the evening, and he had a conflict, so I had to step in, and it was fun to flex my my video recording muscles. It was nice. That was good. Although John, when I got back and I sent all the files to John, he was quick to say, "You did this wrong. You did this wrong.
I'm
you did
sure
this wrong."
He
I
was.
was like, but he's good that way. He wants perfection. I appreciate that.
We'll get John on the next one, but
that's right.
Tonight we were at that same location, which is the convent, and it's such a beautiful space. If anybody's in the area to South Jersey, particularly Glassboro and Gloucester County, swing by the sisters because this is what we're going to be talking about today.
But we'll get to them in a second, because the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was this will have been a few weeks later when this airs, but congratulations on turning 40. It was very nice. I'm so proud of you. That's nice. Hey, listen, I turned 50 in a couple of months, so I'm
now
well ahead of you.
everybody knows my age. All right, yes.
Hey, listen.
Child of 82.
That's right. Child of 72. I get it. It's cool. But we are youthful at heart.
Yes.
And you in looks as well, because you do, whereas I very much look like a 50-year-old, you somehow been able to maintain looking like a 25-year-old. So credit to you.
Work with the youth and they keep you young. That's my secret.
I think there's a lot of truth to that, because I work with a lot of angry old people, and I just look like an angry old person all the time. Well, so that's fun.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I spent my birthday. I had this great girls weekend planned out, and not everybody was able to make it, so it was just me and my best friend in the end. Went to Disney. It was a lot of fun. And we're there, and I'm wearing the 40th button, the ears, and all that stuff, and people wishing you happy birthday. And it was really fun because I've had easily 5-6 people say, "What? You're not 40? You don't look, no way. You're 30. So it made me feel pretty good. I'll take it. And but no, I am 40. And it's funny. A lot of people are saying, maybe Mike, you can comment on this, that 40s are the best years. Everyone's saying you're going to love them. They're the best years of your life.
Everything kind of chills out a little bit in a weird way, in the sense that all those stresses and anxieties you had in your 20s and 30s because you weren't sure what was ahead of you, somehow you hit your 40s and you're like, yeah, I got it.
Everyone is saying that same thing. So thank you for sharing that. And listeners, if you agree, comment on this, because I've been hearing this same kind of advice. You become yourself, you learn who you are, you don't care what other people think. And I'm like, well, I always thought I was kind of like that way, but wow, this is even more exciting. So I'm embracing it.
You should. Because my mom, as I was driving over here today, I called my mom just to check in with her, and she very quietly goes, "Hey, Mike, you're turning 50 later." She's like, are you handling that okay? Are you all right? I was like, yeah.
That's sweet of her checking on you. Are you handling that okay?
That was very nice of her. And honestly, I haven't given it a second thought. I'm perfectly fine with it. I told her I'm more worried about retirement in 15 years or so. And then what am I going to do?
Well, it's within sight, though. That's exciting.
It is. Well, I don't know if it's exciting or there's an area of dread to that, because I'm not, because much like yourself, until I look in the mirror, I feel like I'm 25.
Yeah.
And then I look in the mirror and I'm like, ooh, look, that old guy. But so long as we are psychologically youthful at heart, I think we're going to live forever.
Listen, Mike, dye the beard, dye the hair.
I'm not
That's
dyeing
the
anything.
secret, and it keeps you younger.
No.
You don't have to look in the mirror anymore.
I'll just break all the mirrors. I embrace who you are. You don't need to run away from it. I'm not dyeing anything. My wife, we are so far off track right now, but I will tell you that so my wife turned 50 in December, and a few, I'd say maybe 6-7 months before that, maybe a year before that actually, she made the decision to stop dyeing her hair and just go with the natural look.
Was it during COVID? Because I feel like so many women did that during the lockdown. They're like, that's it. I'm not going to dye anymore.
That was not the reason why. The reason why was because of Donna Ottaviano Britt.
Oh, yeah, she rocks it.
So Donna, our very stylish director of pastoral life, or actually leadership and discipleship for the Diocese of Camden, has gone with natural hair color for the last several years, but she is so chic in the way she cuts it. Looks amazing.
Yeah.
So Jennifer met her and was just blown away by how great her hair looked. So she decided to do that and has accepted and she looks great.
That's awesome.
Donna looks great. My wife looks great. It's wonderful. So
I'm not going gray at 40. I can't do it. Maybe when I hit my 50s, I'll be like Donna and Jennifer.
Maybe, but don't be afraid of it. Embrace the beauty that comes with age. So anyway, we've gone far off track.
Yes, so bringing it back to the convent where we started.
Exactly. So we were here a month ago, and I had never met our guest today before. I've been to the convent. It's my neighborhood convent. It's adjacent to St. Bridget's University Parish in Gloucester, New Jersey. And so I've been around the sisters. The sisters are at my son's school in Clayton. Sister Nabila has been terrorizing him for years with her joy. Sister Bianca has been terrorizing everybody else with her demanding nature, including me. I will routinely get letters and packages from Sister Bianca letting me know what I'm going to be doing and bringing to the diocese on her behalf, which I truly appreciate and love.
Wait, do they come home through your son, through school, and then you have to take it?
That's
really
exactly
funny.
it. I will you got a package from Sister Bianca for the bishop. You got it, no problem. I'll bring it up myself. However, our guest that day I had never met before. And it really blew me away, and I do hope that people we'll talk about some of the same things on this podcast. But if you really want to go back and see her and see Father Gallagher, please check out that episode of Youth Ministry Insights on YouTube.com/Talking Catholic. But anyway, we were talking about it, and we had talked a couple of times about doing more work, sort of highlighting religious orders, and you were like, well, we have to get Sister Stacie on. And I was like, yes, we do. We absolutely have to make that happen. So for that long introduction, Kari, can you introduce our guest?
Yes, so we have Sister Stacie Marie Gagnon. Gagnon, say that right? Yeah. She says it with such a great accent that I tried there. But Sister Stacie Marie will go with from the Franciscan Daughters of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. And we are here at her convent. And Sister, welcome to the podcast. So glad to have you.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Can you say your last name properly now?
Well, if you want to pronounce it French, it should be Gagnon.
Gagnon. Okay. And how is the common terms?
Gagnon.
Gagnon. Okay, cool. So I wasn't too off.
No.
Yeah, so Sister, we're so happy to have you here, and that great interview we did video-wise, and here now we get to talk a little bit more in depth for the podcast about your life and your vocation story, and then of course we want to get more into the charisms of the order of the sisters. So maybe you want to start us off a little bit about your life. Where did you grow up? Were you always into your faith? How was life for you as a young person into your young adult years?
Okay, I grew up in Maine, in the lovely state of Maine, vacation land, and not too far from the ocean, so that was pretty good too, about a half an hour from the ocean. And I grew up in a Catholic family, but we weren't all exactly that practicing. We would some of us would go to Mass on Sunday or be dragged to Mass on Sunday. And we didn't really understand our faith too much. I never went to Catholic schools. I'm from a family of 5, so I have 2 sisters and my parents. And my youth was really difficult due to different situations in my family. For example, alcoholism, which I later understood and studied. But at that time in my life, I didn't have a clue what was going on. It was just very rough for all of us. And then in school also, I kind of got in with the wrong crowd around my middle school years. And needless to say, at a very early age, around 14, 15 years old, I had pretty much had it with life. There wasn't anything that was going right for me, and I just pretty much wanted to say, that's it, I'm done.
Wow.
But thank God I had what you would say a conversion experience. I literally called out to God, and I asked him to help me, and he did. He helped me stop hanging around with the people I was hanging around with, and stop going out with the young guy I was going out with, and just kind of change the page, so to speak.
Yeah.
I turned the page. And so then I went into high school, and that at first was a little rough because I didn't really have any close friends anymore. I was like by myself.
Because you kind of cut them off from that experience,
yes.
the friend, the boyfriend.
So I was a very artsy type person, and I threw myself in all the arts, acting, singing, dancing, drawing, everything. And so I was involved in all kinds of groups, but I still felt like there was something inside me that was pretty empty. And like these things weren't filling me up, weren't making me really happy, like really whole. I just knew something was missing. And eventually when I got in a theater production in the town, I met a woman who was a Christian. She had been Catholic. She had left the church at that time. But she was just total joy in her face, in her actions. And I just was floored. I had no clue why she was like that and why I had never met anyone like that before in my life, in the church or anywhere. And so I was curious.
She was older than you.
She was older than I. Yes, she was a professional actress from Florida, and she was up in my state doing like summer theater plays.
Wow.
And so getting to know her, she talked all the time about Jesus and about her relationship with Jesus. And I didn't understand that because, you know, I grew up Catholic, but Jesus wasn't any person that I could really talk to like she did. So slowly I got to know her, and I got to understand that she literally had a friendship, a relationship with Jesus, the Son of God. And that really rubbed off on me at a certain point. And at a crisis in the theater, I was crying and kind of crazy, and she basically prayed over me. And when that happened, I felt for the first time in my life, truly loved by God. I felt like just warmth all over me, like the Holy Spirit just came upon me. I know that now. And I cried and I cried, and I just felt that God totally loved me, forgave me for everything I had done, and was just accepting me.
Wow.
So after that, I went into the only prayer group that was around my area, which was with elderly people. So I was like 15 going to a prayer group with all these old people. But that's all I had on a Friday night in another town, so that's what I went to for a long time.
God bless you for sticking to that. Some people go one time, a teenager, and say, I'm not going back to this. But
no, these people were great, and they literally taught me how to read the Bible and how to pray and just all kinds of beautiful things.
This is a Catholic or a Christian?
A Catholic. It was a charismatic group, actually.
Okay.
A Catholic group focusing on the Holy Spirit. And so then all of a sudden, you know, I would go to Mass, and Mass was alive to me, whereas before it was like totally boring. But after that, after I had changed and after my eyes had opened, then everything in the Mass became alive to me. And I could really hear, you know, the Lord speaking through the gospel, and I could start to understand his word. And so that really changed. So in high school, I was saying, okay, Lord, this is great and wonderful, but I don't even have a friend, you know, a close friend to share this with. Could you give me a friend? So he heard my prayer, and literally another girl in my chorus class in singing, I talked to her about Jesus and my experience, and she also had a conversion experience. And she was a Baptist, she wasn't even Catholic, but she came back to her faith too. And we just had this great friendship all the way through high school.
Wow.
And we would read the Bible together. We would pray together. Sometimes she'd come to the Catholic church. Sometimes I'd go visit her church. I would sing. She would play the piano. It was just great. So I really thank the Lord for, providing and watching over me for that. Then I said, where am I going to go to college, or university? And, my parents kind of wanted me to go locally to a state college. But somebody had told me about the Franciscan University in Ohio, of Steubenville in Ohio. And they said, this is a really Catholic school. It's Franciscan. It's charismatic. You should go there. And I said, well, that's great and wonderful, but it's kind of far away and it costs a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't sure that was even going to be possible. But I kind of talked my parents into going out for a come-and-see weekend. So we drove all the way out there. It was like something ridiculous. I can't even remember, like 16 hours or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Sounds about right from Maine.
Mm-hmm. And so we went out, and my parents were even surprised at how awesome the people were. They were like very open and very friendly, and they weren't expecting that. Yeah.
Wow. Franciscan is so well known for just the faith being alive. Even today, I'm sure that was several years ago now, but even today, it still has that great reputation for the young people. I know some of my youth have attended there and have had amazing experiences going to that university and just being there. It's not as charismatic, I understand now. It still has those roots, but it is so vibrant with the faith. Adoration on like every floor of every dorm room. It's just pretty chapels, adoration chapels. So incredible. And back then.
What's beautiful about that university is that there's Mass every day. Mm-hmm. There's different groups that sing at the Mass. I was like on the Saturday group that sang for the Mass. And there's all kinds of activities, all kinds of spiritual activities. Yeah. So you can get involved in all kinds of different things. Mm-hmm. And then what's great about it is that you're with other young people that just want to learn about loving their faith and the Bible, and they want to pray. And so, like, for example, we used to do roller skating to Christian music, for example. And then we'd have dances with Christian music. So, I mean, there was just really cool opportunities. And the other thing about there was that you didn't just get thrown into a dorm and whatever it was. No, at that university you have households. So, like, groups of girls are, like, all together on a wing of a floor, so that you've got maybe like 16 or 20 girls, and they're part of a household. So you have a name, and you literally have a meeting like once a week. There's real fraternity, real fellowship, mm-hmm. and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's still going on today. I know many who have talked about their households and the meetings and the prayer time that they spend together.
So for me, my years at university were they were great, but they were also a little rough because I had a lot of healing to deal with, mm-hmm. from things from my childhood and my teenage years. I needed to understand a lot of things. I needed a lot of forgiveness. And so I went through that in those years with the help of a lot of friends and the priests there, the Franciscans and so on. And then also during that time, I had never thought about being a sister in my life, ever. Mm-hmm. And when I was there, pretty much, let's say maybe my second year was when I had heard a little bit about these like vocation weekends. And so I got interested in those to just see what vocations were all about. So we would go on these weekends, and we would have people talk to us about becoming a sister or a priest or marriage, all the different vocations. And that kind of opened me up to all the possibilities, even to being a sister. So I started thinking about that and praying about that. And basically, as I usually say to people when I talk about my vocation anyway, or a vocation, it's, you really feel the Lord calling you. It's just like if you would get married to someone, that person's for you. You get to know that person gets to know you, and you feel comfortable with each other, and you just at a certain point you fall in love, and that's right. It's the right person for you. And that's how it is also with a religious vocation. You literally feel the Lord calling you to be closer to Him. You spend more time with Him in prayer, before the tabernacle, before the Eucharist. And that just keeps getting stronger and stronger within you. And it gets stronger than another type of love for example, in my case, for a man. And so you just know it's the Lord that's calling you. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I felt for a long time. And then, like I say, I would just listen in prayer. And then I said, well, I want to start looking around. I actually got kind of crazy about it because I wasn't even finished my 4 years of university. And I was talking with my spiritual director, and he's like, well, you kind of just have to finish your studies right now. Just don't go running around looking for things right now. Just finish your 4 years, and then the Lord will show you where you need to go. And he was right about that. So I did finish my 4 years. I got a double major in theology and in mental health and human services. And then after that, I just said, well, I kind of wanted to stay there and study actually on the master's level in theology. But you know what? I just didn't have it in me anymore to do any studying right then. Mm-hmm. I really wanted to find my vocation. Yeah. So what happened to me was, very interestingly enough, is that one of my professors from university, was a Belgian woman. She was my French teacher. And I heard that she went to Italy to join some religious community. Well, didn't she write me and invite me to come there?
Oh, wow.
And at first I laughed at it, actually. I said, yeah, right. When am I going to go to Europe? Where am I going to get that money? And how am I going to go over there? Well, guess what? The Lord provided. Make a long story short, the Lord provided through certain benefactors and people that knew I wanted to go and that I was looking for my vocation. And so I ended up with a ticket for 15 days only to go to Italy and then to come back. I already had the ticket back. Well, I go over there, I see her and I see the community, and basically I decided to stay. And I ended up staying there for 12 years.
Oh my.
So the 15-day ticket turned into a 12-year ticket.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just a little. And so I spent a lot of time in that community. It was a Marian community, and it's a new community. It was kind of based on the spirituality of Medjugorje. And it was a very contemplative community. So in those years there, I stayed for such a long time because basically the spirituality was great. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of prayer, and there was a lot of Eucharistic adoration, and obviously Marian devotion. But at a certain point, the life was a little too radical for me, let's say, and so it kind of wore me down, like physically and just mentally even. And so at a certain point, I decided this is not right for me with my spiritual director at that time. And I eventually left there and was discerning what order is it that the Lord wants for me then. One that's more maybe balanced for me. I was looking for something, more humanly balanced, something that wasn't so radical. Mm-hmm. So sometimes, when we're young, that's something we do. We kind of like go off the deep edge with certain things. And that's, in that community, we were all young at that time, and we were a little bit too off the deep end. Mm-hmm. And now they've kind of reined it back because I was still in touch with them. But
they're still in existence.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But
do you want to share the name of the order?
The Marian Community Oasis of Peace. They're still my friends, and I'm still in contact with some of them. But like I say, they've had to make a lot of changes too, and a lot of people have left too, especially Americans. A lot of Americans have left. I don't think there's any Americans in there now. Yeah. So it's more kind of for people like Europeans and so on. And so basically, after I left there, I was actually a good friend of mine, Father J. Finelli from Rhode Island. He said, why don't you come and work in my parish while you're looking around and deciding where God wants you. So I did some parish work. And when I told him I was leaving, it was very funny. I'll never forget it. I said, I think I'm going to leave this order. And he said, oh, it's about time. I said, why are you saying that? He said, because I've known you for years and that never fit you. Mm-hmm. That was never for you. But you were so dead set in doing that who could tell you anything different? Mm-hmm. So when I heard that, I said, oh, great.
That sounds very familiar to many of our lives. Hearing that. Every now and again, you need that friend that steps up and say, oh, yeah, you were wrong for a while, but I'm glad you walked yourself to the epiphany.
That's right. That's about how that went. So then I spent like about maybe a year, not even, working and just looking around, and I actually had a list of my top 10 orders I was looking at. And 10. And I was just starting to go down the list. I had gone to the first one. I won't say what name it is, who it was, but it was an order in New York. And I went to visit them, and I just, you just get that feeling, no, this isn't it.
Yeah.
This isn't it. No, not here. So then I went to number 2. Well, it just happened to be the one I'm in now. But what happened is that I called and I said, oh no, let me tell you this. This is another cool thing that happened. I went to visit the Salesians. I'll mention this. This was a very cool thing. I went to the Salesians, which were, I think they were in northern New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And I was there for the weekend. And it took me one day with the vocation directors there to figure out, both of us figured out that wasn't for me. Mm. But what was so cool about her, this was a great sign of a true vocation directress. She literally said to me, well, what exactly are you looking for? Let me help you figure out maybe a place that would be for you. Oh. And so she literally told me about this order here as one of the ones. And so I called and I talked to Sister Dorothy, who now is deceased and is with our Lord, having fun up there, playing jokes and doing crazy stuff.
Our beloved Sister Dorothy. We love her. We had her on the podcast 3 years ago, and it's a great one.
She's up there having fun now.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see her again. She's an amazing woman.
So I called and I talked to her, and she said, oh, sure, come for the weekend.
Yeah.
So I came down, and a priest friend from Philadelphia brought me over to Westmont, where we had a house then.
And it's in South Jersey?
Yes, and it was literally just 3 sisters at that house. It was Sister Dorothy, Sister Bianca, whom I live with now, and Sister Rita. And all 3 of them are Maltese. Mm-hmm. And so we had dinner that night, and my friend, the priest, stayed there with us and had dinner. Then he left. Then we were cleaning up the dishes. I helped clean up the dishes like I would any other time. And we talked a little bit, and then we went to bed. Well, the next morning, I got up and I said to Sister Dorothy, I said, this is kind of strange, but I really feel like last night I was thinking, I really feel at home here. Like this is my family. And she just looked at me and she said, I can't believe it. She said, that's exactly what we were saying last night, that you fit in here just like you're one of our family.
Wow.
And so from then on, it just fit like a glove. Mm-hmm. Wow. And I cried when I had to leave from that weekend. And then when I came back another time, and I read I know Italian, so because I lived in Italy for so many years, and the constitutions, which is the rules that we live by, was all in Italian. I read that in one shot. And I said, oh, this is totally for me. And so then I just had to go through the whole process of entering this order from the other order, which was not easy either, to tell you the truth. Because
I was going to say it's I know it happens, but it's somewhat rare to switch orders.
Usually what happens is if you're from a papal order, which means an order that's been founded with the Holy See in Rome. So the other order I was in Italy is a new community as of the 1980s. Mm-hmm. So they're not a papal order. Mm. So for me to come into this order here, the Franciscan Missionary Sisters of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, which has been around since 1800, which is a papal order, I couldn't just make this direct switch. So I was asked to take off the habit, to go through formation all over again. So become a postulant again, become a novice again for 2 years, become a junior sister for 5 years. I had to go through the whole thing. So when I got that letter that day, when they gave me the letter from the Mother General saying that I had to do that, I literally went to my room and cried in front of the crucifix. And I said, Lord, if this is what you're asking, this is what I will do.
How beautiful.
So that was a big moment in my life when I had to really just surrender and just embrace God's will.
Yeah.
Because usually, like I say, when you transfer from like a regular papal order to another one, you just have to go through like a period of time. You don't have to take off your habit, and then you just switch into the order. It's a much simpler thing.
Starting like brand new, ground zero.
Totally over again.
And how was that for you? How was that whole process? How many years? How long did it take until final profession of vows?
Well, like I say, it was like maybe they cut down the postulancy to like 6 months. But I did my I had to go back over to Rome, do my postulancy over there. I did 1 year of novitiate over there. Then I came back here and did a novice year for 1 year. Then I was a junior sister here, and I was teaching while I was a junior sister, and I was also studying for my master's at Rowan University, which was crazy, all of that together. And then I got sent back over to Rome again. Yeah. So 5, 6, 7, 8 years at least. Yeah.
But I will tell you that Sister and I never met until we were recording the episode the other night. But the managing editor of the newspaper was asking me for Sister Stacie's information because Sister Stacie's going to be all over the place. So Kari had her on the podcast, or Kari had her on the YouTube channel. We're having her on the podcast. The newspaper is going to have an article about her for their one of their Vocations editions. So we're going to see Sister Stacie every place. But I was looking through some of the historical stuff, so I just did a quick Google search on the Star Herald, and I have to say there's a beautiful photograph of Sister Stacie when she made her final vows, and I think it was Bishop Galante at the time.
Yes,
but here's the thing that's amazing about it. Never met you. Knew a little bit about the sisters, wasn't working for the newspaper at that time. It was 3 years before I would come to the diocese. I have such a clear memory of seeing that picture in the newspaper when it happened and just being overjoyed that there was a new sister in the community.
Look at that.
It was, and I just happened to look at it yesterday.
Like a flashback to it.
It was a beautiful flashback. I remember being so happy, and until last month we still hadn't met each other.
Yeah.
But I just wanted that had an effect on many people. I think that picture might have actually been hanging up on my wife. I think put it up on the refrigerator door for a little while. So just so you know, even though you didn't know any of us, we were all very excited for you when it finally happened. So I
think I knew you then, though.
Yeah. Probably
2007 was that?
Yeah.
Because I remember it. I remember Father saying how it just happened. Sister made her final vows. It was at St. Bridget's Church in Glassboro. I do remember that time. So here we are, and so you're now in the order. How many years have you been?
Well, I professed my first vows in this order in 2006. Okay. And I did my final vows in 2012. Here, always here in the same church in St. Bridget's.
Beautiful. And what's it like now being in the order? So tell us a little bit about the charisms and the sisters and where they are in different countries, because they're not just here in the States, they're actually all around the world in different locations.
Well, the first thing is we're Franciscan. So anyone that knows anything about Franciscans is that, first of all, just everybody loves St. Francis.
Naturally, of course.
And his spirituality, which has always been my spirituality, to tell you the truth.
And looking back, you went to Franciscan University. I mean, you had it already ingrained.
I forgot to mention that when I was in Franciscan University, I became a secular Franciscan. Before I became a sister, I was a professed secular Franciscan. Wow. And then I knew I needed more, that the God was calling me to more. So we're Franciscan, so that means we really love to be joyful. We really love to be with people. And we really love just fraternity, being together. That's really important to us. Like, we're not loners. We really love to be in family and be together and decide things together and so on. And then we're missionaries. So that's something, I didn't even know I was called to, but I found that out because, like I say, I went over to Italy. I've been to Jamaica. I lived in Jamaica. I've been to Brazil. Just personally, that's just me. And I visited other countries, but I found out that there's something special. It's a real special gift to be a missionary, to be willing to just uproot yourself and go where you're asked to go to serve God's people, and especially the poor and those who really need you the most. So that's just it's a beautiful charism to be called to be a missionary. And
even more recently with you coming back here to the States, because you were in Italy for several years, 12 years before?
no, I've lived in Italy for a total of over 20 years.
Oh,
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
But the stretch before coming back to the States most recently was how long?
Since 2012.
Okay. So, 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
A decade in Italy, and then...
And what were you doing in Italy?
When I left here, I went to Malta, actually, and was in Malta for 6 months, working in one of our a gigantic school we have there for girls, all-girls school. But then I didn't feel like that was the right thing for me, and I needed to do more. So I went to Palermo in Sicily, and I was there for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And there I was teaching and working with the youth and in the parish, a very poor parish. And then I got moved to Rome, to the General House, and I've been there ever since.
Wow. And
in the General House, I was working in school, teaching, and also the vicar of the house recently.
Wow.
So that means just helping out the superior a lot, doing a lot of footwork.
Yeah.
It's, I love hearing these stories because I feel like, when we talk, we don't often get an opportunity to kind of hear about the inner workings of the orders and the communities, and it's a great opportunity to get to learn more, and this is fantastic.
I know.
I got to be honest with you, Kari. Every time we talk, whenever we talk with any religious, I'm often amazed that you yourself never.
Oh,
considered.
You know what? It's funny because Sister Stacie mentioned Sister Dorothy, and you knew her well as well, and many of our listeners, I'm sure, have known her because she was just all over the diocese in her many years here. I met her when I was in college, and I always say, Sister Dorothy made me think about becoming a sister for 1 minute, and that was it.
That's it, huh?
So there was this Busy Students Retreat. I went to Rowan University, and I was very involved in the Newman Center there. I've mentioned that on previous podcasts, and while I was there, they had this Busy Students Retreat, and you could sign up with Sister Dorothy, you could sign up with Father Maz, and I think there was another guest priest you could sign up with. And throughout your week, even though you were very busy, that's why they call it Busy Students Retreat, I think it was like 20-minute time slots, 2 or 3 times during the week, where you met up with them and you just had a little spiritual direction, touched base, and all that, prayed. It was perfect. It was a great little retreat throughout the week. So Sister Dorothy was my directress and our spiritual directress, and she said to me, like the first time I met her, she's like, so do you ever think of becoming a sister? I was like, no, yes, no, I just thought about it, no, I'm not. And it was like for like 1 minute, but it was like the kind of thing, we have
a calling.
Yeah, you have these tugs in your heart, and and it was like almost like my whole life, like I always knew I was going to be doing, or I always felt God call me something big for his church, or well, big in retrospect, but to work for his church and do this work. How I was going to get there, I never knew. I didn't major in youth ministry, but I just knew God's going to use me in some way for his church. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it wasn't as a sister, and I couldn't place it, and it wasn't until later in my life that pieces lined up, and God's will and God's timing lined up to my timing in my life, and losing jobs and everything else, that it led me back around to youth ministry. But I always equate Sister Dorothy for allowing me to think about it for that 1 minute, and then dismissing it, just knowing no, it's not. So it's just we all think about it to different degrees. For me, it was about 1 minute.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about it on this podcast many times, and I tell people the same thing all the time. If you yourself think somebody would be a good priest or women religious or male religious, tell them that, because you never know when it's possible that they were just waiting for someone to tell them. Certainly.
Now that you say that, let me tell you one thing that happened to me one time. Yeah. Before I was a sister, when I had finished university, and I was kind of thinking about it, one day I was up in Maine at the Franciscan Monastery in Kennebunkport, Maine. And do you know who Father Karapi is?
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, before he was anyone famous, he was a Franciscan up there. And one day I was there, and I was walking out to the boathouse, which no longer is there, and I was praying the rosary, and I saw him there, and he was praying the rosary. And I don't know if I asked him or he asked me, but one of us asked the other one if we wanted to pray the rosary together, and we did. And at the end of it, he turned to me and he said, "Did you ever think about becoming a sister? I think you probably have a vocation to become a sister."
Wow.
Yeah.
And there it is.
Plant the seed.
Did you ever get back in touch with him again? Does he know you're
Nope.
a sister? Oh, wow.
Well, I'm glad that he recognized it, because that's been a great gift to the Catholic faith.
Oh, yes. So true. Wow.
So you wanted to know more about...
Yeah, tell us a little more. Your foundress.
Our foundress is Blessed Mary Catherine Troiani. She's an Italian sister from the 1800s, and she's blessed. She needs one more miracle to become a saint. And she's originally from a little town not far from Rome, and she's got a whole story. We could talk about that if you want to a little bit later, but make a long story short, she was the first Italian woman to go in the missions to Egypt. The first one. So at that time in the 1800s, first of all, women didn't really do much, and especially religious. The religious at that time were more kind of like cloistered. Yeah. They like stayed in their own convent. They prayed a lot, were silent a lot. They might have had a school or something, but they didn't just like go out walking the streets or doing other things. And you would definitely not go out to the missions. The missions were the man's world, or the priest would go. So what happened was, at a certain point, she ended up going to Egypt and founding our order, which is the Franciscan Missionaries, Sisters of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. And at this point, first of all, for our charism, I'm going to read it to you because I can't even memorize it, so it's so specific. To live the gospel of Jesus Christ, our crucified spouse, naked and abandoned on the cross, and in him to be sent for the conversion of people in distant lands. So in other words, that's why we're missionaries, to be able to be sent to be witnesses, of Jesus in other places. Now, our works are all different types of things. Basically, though, they're promoting humanity, in the sense that promoting like women and children, protecting the poor, the children. We prefer to work with people that are in difficulty, especially like, for example, her whole life was spent in Egypt at a time when there was this slavery going on. She would literally get money, ask for money from benefactors back in Europe to buy slaves so that she could free them, first of all. And also she would pick the ones that no one would want to buy. So the ones that looked sick or were weak, she would get those ones, and she would either nurse them back, to health and try to bring them into the Christian faith, or if they were about ready to die, she would literally prepare them for death and bury them with a Christian burial. And she would take care of not just Catholics. Her whole ministry at that time was to Muslims and to whoever.
Like almost like an early Mother Teresa. It reminds me of.
She's exactly called that, the Mother Teresa of her time.
There it is.
Even when she died, she had a massive funeral, and Muslims, everybody came, and they were all calling her the Mother of the Poor.
Wow.
Let's pray for that, for her intercession, that other miracle, because it seems like she is truly a saint.
Definitely.
Just needs to be confirmed now.
So we have houses. What's funny about our order is we're missionary, but you'd think that here we are in one of the biggest countries of the world, the United States, and you'd think we have a bunch of houses here. Well, right now we only have this one house here.
Wow.
So that tells you how missionary we are. We are in other countries where there are a lot of poor people and a lot of danger. For example, we're in China. Oh. And we won't go into that in much detail because it's better not to. But we have various houses in China and various situations there which are not very easy at all. We also have houses in Africa, so obviously in Egypt, and also in Guinea-Bissau, which is in very poor and difficult situation, and in Ghana, Africa, that also is another situation. And let's see, we're in Syria, for example, where it's been war-torn for years now. We've had people shooting through our houses. The sisters, who I think they were teaching school at one time, they've been working with refugees now for a long time. Wow. People from the war that need help. We're in Iraq, which has also been war-torn for years. Yeah. And we open a house, we close a house. It's like to try and deal with the situation.
Yeah.
Because it's so dangerous. Let's see, where else were we? We're in Brazil. We're all over the Middle East because our foundress loved the Holy Land. So we literally have houses everywhere, like Jerusalem, Cana, the Mount of Beatitudes. We are the only house on the Mount of Beatitudes. If you go to the Mount of Beatitudes, those are our sisters right there in that house.
Good to know if I'm ever there.
Yes. We have houses in Bethlehem, in Nazareth, in Jordan, in Lebanon.
Oh, my.
All these different places.
How do you keep in touch with, like, how do you know what's going on? Is there some big network? Do you have a big community chat? Like, how is it that you know all this and when ones are opening and closing and what's going on?
Well, actually, what we have is what we call flash news. It gets put out every month from our general house, and so we get it over the internet, and we just print it up, and it's all the news, the latest news from our order for that month.
I'm curious, how many Americans are in the order?
Actually, only at this point, 3.
Really?
Oh,
So
you and 2 others?
Yes.
So you're very unique that you would be there. That's how does the order react to having a handful of Americans in there? Is that a benefit to the order? Is it peculiar? Is it?
I don't know. It's probably indifferent because we're so international.
Yeah.
We have just people from all different countries.
Because of where we are and my limited interaction with the order, you're, I think, the only person that I've ever interacted with. Well, that's not true. There's actually been a couple of people, but predominantly everybody I've ever interacted is Maltese. Would you say that's still the largest part of the order? Or
No. What happened here was, to tell you the truth, Sister Gemma, did either of you know
Yes.
Sister
Sure,
Gemma?
of course, yeah.
Sister Gemma was like the first sister over here. She's Italian, and she came over here because her relatives were here, I think. And that was like in the 60s. And she came over, and then our presence eventually came over. And at that time, the majority of sisters that could speak English were the Maltese sisters. Maltese people are totally cool. I've lived in Malta for 6 months. I just admire Maltese people. I've never met any other nationality like Maltese because they speak multiple languages and they're just totally open to all different countries in the world and everything. And I was just totally impressed with Maltese culture. And so the Maltese sisters spoke English perfectly. And so they came here.
Oh, okay.
And so some Italian sisters came and so on. That's why.
All right. But is it predominantly any particular country or?
I would say Italian.
Italian.
At this point, Italian, Egyptian. Oh, we also have another house I didn't mention too, in Eritrea, which is by Ethiopia.
Oh, wow.
And those 2 countries have been in war for a long time. And Eritrea is another difficult situation of ours, where our sisters, well, the government isn't, let's just say, is not really promoting anything Christian. So they're trying to, they literally have closed down recently our school. And so we've got all kinds of young sisters over there, but they can't even leave the country. So we deal with a lot of crazy situations.
But it sounds like the order itself is still very healthy.
Oh, yes.
That it's all over the place and expanding into other countries and whatnot. That's wonderful to hear.
About how many sisters in total? Give or take.
600 or so.
Nice.
It could be more, but around 600 or so.
Do they do like vocation recruitment weekends, come and sees, things like that, actively to promote to the younger?
What's happening now is in the United States, for example, a lot of vocations aren't happening in general, not just with our order. The same in Italy. So it's very funny about vocations nowadays, as of the last maybe 10, 20 years, whatever, even with priests. As you can see, we have a lot of priests from different countries here in the United States. Well, the same thing's happening with religious life. A lot of the vocations are coming in poorer countries. So people are responding
Amazing.
more, and like I say, I've been to a few poor countries, and I can understand that because people are simpler.
Less distractions.
They count their blessings more, and they really prize their faith.
Yeah,
A lot
very
more.
true. The other countries I've been to, especially third world countries, the faith is alive and well. They are so full of joy, hope, it's a priority in their life. It's not just something, a box they check off. It is the number one priority in their life, and then their life revolves around it. I felt that the most when I was in Haiti doing some mission work.
Exactly.
I was like, I don't want to leave here. How can I make this happen in my country, And of course, we all do our part. I try to do my part, but man, it's good to know that it is still alive and well, and that you are getting vocations. Let it not be from the U.S., but, other places where young women are coming forth and becoming sisters.
Although, who knows, the power of this podcast, you could have 100 by next
Sounds good.
Sister, you better open these doors and have a little come and see weekend. Speaking of which, these doors are beautiful. You have this great space here.
Yeah, it's a beautiful convent.
Do you want to talk about this space? Because maybe there are some ministries in South Jersey that might want to use it. It's after Sister Dorothy, I understand.
Definitely. Okay,
area.
well, this convent here belongs to us, and we built it. It was an old building, an old house, and then we took that and restructured it, and we added on a whole new section. Well, with a chapel, with our own chapel, which is very beautiful too.
Very gorgeous.
And a great place to pray.
Mm-hmm.
But we've attached, as of this year, before I even got here in June, this whole new special meeting room, which is a beautiful meeting room. And that was really Sister Dorothy's dream, to have groups here, especially the one group that we do have at the convent already that comes here once a month, every month, is the group dedicated to Blessed Mary Catherine Troiani. So it's a group that we meet together, and we talk about the spirituality of Mother Mary Catherine. We study some of the things that she wrote or that she said, and focus on that. And then we pray the rosary together, and then we eat something together, like a little snack together. Yeah. It's kind of nice.
Is that open for anybody to come?
Oh, yes. We'd love to have people come.
And when does that meet?
We just decided it's going to be on the third Sunday of the month at 1:30. At 1:30. But we love to have groups here. We've had Kari's group, for example, here. Different youth groups over here. We've had 3 or 4 meetings. I don't even know now.
Yeah.
Here. And so we use this room, and we also use the chapel. And let's see what else.
You're going to be hosting another prayer group that I help lead to.
Oh, that's right.
The Battaglia 10 prayer group here.
That's coming up.
So yeah, it's a great space. If you have a regular prayer group, a marrying prayer group, especially because that's part of your work is under Mary. But really any group, young, older, it's a great space to me. It's beautiful, gorgeous. It's a great little kitchen area, bathroom, and then that chapel. Can't beat it.
Yeah, the chapel is not to be missed. It actually it makes the church nearby sort of pale in comparison, which is a church that is near and dear to all of our hearts.
It is.
You were married in
there.
it. I was baptized in it. Yeah. Sister professed in it.
We all have a sacrament there. It's really
right.
Interesting.
It's a great
Connects
church.
all of us.
Yeah, and a great parking lot. It's one of the best parking lots in the diocese.
Oh, really?
I would agree to that. I would agree to that statement.
I love that. And it's right in the middle of downtown Glassboro, right by Rowan University.
Is up and coming right now. So this is where it's at. And
come to think of it, we're also Rowan graduates too, aren't we?
Wow.
Yeah, it's true.
What else do we have in common?
I don't know, but obviously I need to make a pitch to Rowan about their connection to Catholicism and see if we can get some connections there going too.
Yeah.
We need to get the Newman group over here is what we need.
Yes.
That is a good point.
That's going to be the next step.
That's excellent.
Next group.
Yeah, because they really do need. And actually, that is a nice active Newman group. My wife was part of that. You were part of it. So for anybody who's thinking about sending their kids to college, I can highly recommend Glassboro, New Jersey, because the Rowan University is fantastic. You have the sisters nearby. You have a very enthusiastic Newman group. It's a wonderful experience. However, more importantly, because this is sort of our vocations episode, and we talked about this earlier, but I'm going to encourage all of our listeners, if you know somebody who has ever shown an interest in the religious life, really consider this. Listen to what Sister Stacie had to say. First of all, this order is great, and I'm sure that even though they don't have a ton of Americans in it, they would certainly be open to it. But much like Sister Stacie noted earlier, the discernment process is important, and it's a good thing. I mean, there's no reason you can't have a list of 10 communities you have an interest in and then go visit them. We've certainly, on this podcast, we've had a number of different communities on, and it's always fascinating. I'm accused repeatedly of having a entirely too close a relationship with the CFR sisters down in Atlantic City. However, that's just how my life goes from time to time. I end up interacting with people on a regular basis. But, we love them. I would never even think about joining the CFR order if I was, still a single person.
You couldn't hang with the beard either, Mike.
Couldn't.
The beard,
No,
the long beard wouldn't work on you.
I like a nice tight goatee.
You gotta have it
That's
tight.
That's all I can do. But I mean, these you kind of want to, if you know a religious person in your area, have the conversation about what their process was, and think about it, and think about the people in your life. And we've certainly had people on this podcast in the past 4 or 5 years who themselves kind of in that process decided that they did in fact have a desire to religious life, and sort of up and change careers. So anyway, everybody, as we come to the end here, I want to thank Sister Stacie for joining us and telling us about her story. This was great. And Kari, as always, thank you for setting this up. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. And we'll talk to you again next week. See you, everybody.
God bless.
Bye. God bless.